Happy Saturday. Welcome to the Paradigm Shift episode 160. Back from the Masters with a very delightful, abundant, exclusive treat. Let's get this party started. Carlina, Mike Allen in the house. Big news. Bring it from Uncle Dave, and then let's get this party started, baby. How you guys doing? Happy Saturday. How's the weekend going? What are you most excited about right now? And everything in between. We have two unbelievable guests on today. We're going to bring you guys on, and we're going to start in about 5 minutes. 5 minutes, Dom, I see you on here. We couldn't be more pumped, personally. I know you guys. Mark in the house, Jen, Uncle Dave. There he is.
Hey,
You sex Buddha. How are
I don't know
you?
why it doesn't show me. It didn't show me you were live, but you're live.
You can never lose me, Dave.
There you go. You're alive, and you got that sexy golf shirt on again. Thank you for wearing that.
What about the golf shoes, though?
The what?
The golf shoes.
Oh yeah, those are the best, man. You can go dancing and watch golf all at the same time. There's nothing better.
Speaking of golf, we're back from the Masters. How was the trip?
You know, it was phenomenal, and I learned so much. It was the first time I've ever done a Masters mastermind. You know, I've done masterminds at the Super Bowl. I've done them in Scotland. I've done them on a private island. I've done them at the 500. But I challenged myself because the Masters is like none other. It's the town is different. You know, the housing is different. The hospitality is different. You can't have cell phones. The ticketing and badging is different. The celebrity side of stuff is different. And so, you know, to put yourself outside your comfort zone with, you know, the brand that we have and community we have, we were prepared to learn a lot. And it was a great experience. And we will be much better off next year doing the Masters Mastermind with all the lessons that we learned. But it is still like none other. There's nothing more healing than walking into Augusta National and being around a different frequency, because everyone comes from around the world, and you know, you can just stand next to someone and it's like, oh, you know, I exited for $800 million. Oh, I ran this company. I fund this. You know, I'm the CEO of this. And every single person has some sort of frequency or awareness that is incredible.
The conversations are a little bit different out there, Dave.
Yeah, they certainly are, which is, you know, what I've been doing for over 30 years is trying to parallel those conversations that you have that are similar or attributed to things like the Masters that are like none other.
Yeah. Speaking of like no other, you are like no other, Dave.
Ferocious Buddha, man, it's good to be home, and I enjoy getting all my people together. You know, so many people I work with, and you know, I'm looking at your growth and the conversations you're having and the conversations, you know, you're on the national PGA show, and the feedback that I got, you know, that's a completely different audience than what you're used to. But Frank Bassett, who's an incredible friend with PGA Tour and PGA.com, he had such great remarks about your interview and insight and the bonding. And it made me, you know, super proud that I can recommend you, and it's not a favor, it's a value add. And it's taken years to get there, 160 episodes or more to get there, so that you know, it's real nice to be able to do someone else a favor by recommending you instead of them doing me a favor by putting you on, because you've done the work and you're prepared to walk the walk.
That's a really good point. First of all, thank you. I received that. You're creating win-wins. It's not a favor anymore. It's a value add for both of us. Speaking of Frank, what a pro, huh?
Yeah, he's been doing it for over 30 years. And ironically, his first show was with another one of my one-on-one clients like you, Virgil. Virgil Herring's one of the top PGA Pro coaches, which means he coaches the guys in the Masters. And so, you know, having that be part of facilitate a reunion. When you come home?
What?
When are you coming back?
I'm not leaving.
Is that Julie?
Yeah, she couldn't stay up for me last night. She's too tired. Want to say hi to Craig?
Hi, Craig.
Hey, Julie. How you
You would have
doing?
thought she went to the Masters.
Huh?
You would have thought she went to the
Wow, look at
Masters.
that. Little PDA? Woo!
Yeah.
26 years. 26 years. She still likes me.
Wow.
Have a good day.
Wow. You tranquilize her, Dave? Hypnotize her a little bit?
Yeah. No, she has bad eyes.
I love it. It's nice to see that. You guys doing something really, really right. And no relationship is easy by any means.
Yeah, it's awesome. She's the best. So she's perfect for me, and I hope everyone finds someone perfect for them.
Beautifully said. I'm going to bring on our first guest, Dynamic Dan. We've got two awesome guests.
Dynamic Dan.
Huh?
Dynamic Dan. I like that.
That's right. We got two awesome guests on today, Dave. There he is.
There he is.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Dan.
Good, man. How are you?
How are you?
Very well, thank you. Well rested. I've taken over a week off. This is my first thing back to work now, so feeling good.
What an honor.
Good. You're perfect timing because Dan has a Rory McIlroy look and sound, so it's perfect to have him on the weekend of the Masters.
That's true. That's a comrade. Dan, where are you dialing in from?
I'm in Cyprus right now, in Southern Europe. Been hanging out here with my wife for a week, and we're going to carry on for another week, but I'm going to work remotely from here. The weather, I live in Germany, and the weather there is not good right now, so we're staying here until it gets better.
I love it. Before we dive into all the awesome stuff you have going on, you mentioned your wife. I'm engaged. Dave's married for a long time. What's your secret to a successful relationship?
That's a good one. I learned the definition of love, or a definition of love that I really, really like, which is when you put the other person's needs above your own. And I think something that we've done well. We've been together since we were 16 years old, so it's like half our lives. And I think we both put each other's needs above our own. So that's what I'd recommend.
I love it. Let's dive right in. You know, you do so many cool things with apps and courses and content and marketing. I want to encourage everybody in our community to play catch up, give him a follow, check the awesome stuff he's got going on. One of the things you talk about is, as a content creator, one of the things that you had to overcome in the beginning was the fear of looking stupid or looking silly. I think one of the greatest attributes that someone could possess to be successful is letting go of the need to be perfect. How were you able to overcome the fear of looking silly?
Yeah, I think, first of all, it's really important to acknowledge where that fear comes from, which is like, how many times have you been hanging out with mates and they've said something like, oh my God, have you seen what so-and-so posted on Instagram? Oh, it's so cringe, oh, this and that. And I think ultimately it's a fear of judgment, it's a fear of rejection. And, you know, in Australia, they call it tall poppy syndrome. Like, no one wants to rise above the rest because it gets chopped off. And so everyone wants to sort of fit in and I think it's the same with publishing content online. It's the same with putting yourself out there in any way where you make yourself visible. It's dangerous. It's a perceived threat. So I think it's natural for everyone to feel that way, or for most people. So first of all, if you feel a bit scared of putting yourself out there, I think it's totally normal. And then the thing that got me over it more than anything is I heard someone say that you will stop caring what people think of you when you realize how seldom they do. And acknowledging that we are all the center of our own universe, right? We're all the protagonist in our own story. And ultimately, while I'm sitting here thinking about myself and my, you know, existence, my life, my fears, my hopes, my dreams, no one else is thinking about me. They're all thinking about themselves. And so it's actually extremely freeing to realize that no one gives a crap about you, because then you can just go out and do what you want to do. So that was the first step. And then once you do it once, you realize nothing bad happens. You know, you put yourself out there and what happens? Nothing. The world moves on. And so you do it again and again and again, and then you just put the reps in. And the more you put the reps in, the more you realize that it doesn't really matter. You know, my face is seen millions of times a month across like ads and different things. And people say horrible stuff, and in the beginning it really hurt, right? But at some point you realize, first of all, there's the silent majority. There's the 99.9% who are seeing it and not thinking or saying anything cruel. And then the other thing is the people who say cruel things, really what they're doing is projecting, right? We all know as well, like people are projecting their own insecurities, their own fears, their own doubts, their own pain onto others. And no one who's ahead of you is going to be hating down on you, right? It's always people who are sort of not where they want to be. So meet it with a bit of compassion and carry on doing what you're doing. So I guess there's a number of things in one there.
Yeah, I love it, Dave. What a good dude, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really critical point when it comes to content. Number one, even before there was content, I remember I ran a sports agency with Lee Steinberg, and I had to speak at Cal, which was his alma mater. And it was the first time I was speaking with Lee. And I walked in, I'm like, Lee, how do I look? Is this all right? And he said, Dave, only thing anyone's thinking out there is thinking to themselves, how do I look?
Yeah.
I hope I look. They don't give a shit what you're wearing. So I came up with a math equation to help me understand that what other people think about me is really none of my business. It's just me being me. Is 10% of the people, first of all, the majority of the people don't and won't ever care about you. That's period. So even if they see you, they won't and don't care about you at all, either way, which is fine. And it doesn't take many people to build a community when you have access to almost 8 billion people now. So that's another thing that was not even in the realm when I was young, or both of your ages even. So then if you look at the numbers, 10%, no matter what I post, 10% of people are going to love it. 10% of the people that see it are going to say, I love it. And if you ask them 5 minutes after they saw it, what you love about it, they won't be able to tell you. They won't be able to remember your name. They won't be able to, maybe your face, and they definitely won't be remember why they loved it, but they'll be like, yeah, I love that video. No idea why. 10% of the people are going to hate it. And once again, 5 minutes later, they're not going to be able to tell you why they hated it, or who you are, or maybe even what you look like. It's the interesting part that draws the hurt people that hurt people, or draws the apathy and the empathy that exist in the 80%. And the apathy, empathy, and hurtfulness that exists in the other 80% is simply some of what you say they love, some of what you say they hate, and some of what they say just doesn't resonate at all. And so it takes repetition to gather more of the 10% of the people that are going to love you. It takes more repetition to protect yourself from the 10% that are going to hate you and hurt you. And the majority of the people that in the 80%, they still don't know who the heck you are, nor do they care. And that's okay as well. So you have to be willing to say that some people are going to love the cringy, the stupid, what is, trivial to you. And you're not the judge of what other people think. You are the judge of yourself to do your best and learn lessons and have fun, especially if you're posting content. And I think working through the math for me gave me a sense, because older, more established as an executive, I've actually, had a job. I've lost 100 million. I've done things in my life. To put yourself out there, there's a whole different audience of people going, what the heck are you doing? Why would you do this? And, they laugh at you, they scoff at you, they make fun of you, and then they applaud you, and then they hire you to do what you did. And that's the exact, it's so funny. When I left law school and sold legal research on the internet in 1992, most of my law school buddies' parents and relatives laughed at me, scoffed at me, and made fun of me. All I kept hearing is, I can't believe you're not going to be a real lawyer. You spent all that money to go to law school. I can't believe you're going to do that. 9 months later, when I bought my mom a house and a car and I was a millionaire, they were applauding me and asking me for a job. It repetitively happens. Go ahead, Eagle. Take us to the next question.
First of all, I love this conversation. I think that's something that everyone probably, even if they're not putting out content per se, is something that holds most people back, is the fear of judgment of others. And thank you guys for illustrating that so beautifully. I want to ask one more fun one, and we'll bring on our second guest. You're master at marketing, Daniel. You talk about a lot of things, and one of them, which I thought was really interesting, was the difference between a good and a bad niche. And I'd love for you to unpack that.
Yeah, sure. So for those who don't know, I founded a company called Passion.io, which is a software platform that's helping creators and coaches launch their own apps, sell their own courses, their own communities, things like that. So, and the reason I say that is that we get to see sort of behind the curtain of all of our customers. We see the ones who are flying, making tons of money, building huge communities, and we see the ones who are like grinding for, you know, months or years and not getting traction. And one of the things we identified was simply choosing the niche and positioning, even if all other things remain equal. So people might be doing equivalent sort of levels of copywriting, marketing, ad game, creatives, all this sort of stuff. But if everything else remains equal, choosing the right niche or the right positioning can have a huge, huge impact. And I think that people, you know, niche down is like wisdom as old as time, but I think that people do it in the wrong way. I think people do it in ways that matter to them and not necessarily ways that matter to the customer. And so, you know, you talked about golf earlier, right? If you want to niche down in golf, some people think, okay, I just need to be as specific as possible. So I help, I don't know, pregnant women between 30 and 35 who are on their second child, who've been playing golf for 6 months to drive that further or something. They just go ultra specific in a way that they think kind of like makes sense. But ultimately it's meaningless for the potential customer. And the way that's really effective to niche down is by niching down, your information becomes more relevant to the person than it would be if you're speaking broad, right? So in golf, I'm not an expert, but let's say men and women might need different advice when it comes to driving. I don't know. Let's imagine that's the case. Niching down, therefore, by sex makes sense because the advice becomes more valuable when you talk about specificity. And so we had one example in our community, a dance teacher who she'd niched to new mums who wanted to use dance to get back in shape, and I think 2 or 3 other things. And she, you know, she did okay. She had a small community. She was making a bit of money, and we were doing some coaching. And one of the things I encourage people to do is like look for hot spots, meaning look for natural traction where you start to get like people coming to you rather than you needing to push things on other people. And she said, well, you know, I do get quite a lot of young professional dancers asking me, how can I get on more stages? How can I advance my career? And so she flipped her niche to this market of young professional dancers looking how to get on more stages and advance their careers. And it absolutely took off, and she's doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month now with her community and her app. And it's finding the niche where you're creating something meaningful, can have a huge impact.
Pretty straightforward. Love
Yeah.
it.
I think too many times people attach not only their emotions, but their marketing to an outcome instead of understanding the essence, the quantitative value to exceed what they're asking for. And those people that can utilize their content and their ad spend and their amplification of both towards a specific critical life or business issue that's reflective of what's going to resonate, they don't even have to limit themselves to women or men. They can limit themselves only by feminine energy or masculine energy. Age is irrelevant, especially today, especially if you're utilizing social silos, that there's a amplification. And that's why in my marketing strategy, it's simply community. And it's a community of people that are going to help each other, know people that are going to help each other. Because especially if I was all of your age, and I applaud you all for being your age, but the one thing I've learned about a community of people that want to help each other is they buy from you for life and sell for you for life. So whether I was worth over 100 million, lost it all, or made it all back, the thing that gave me stability was I had this beautiful community of people that wanted to help each other. And they were always there to buy from me and sell for me, as I'm always there to buy from them and sell for them as well. And nothing will accelerate, amplify, aggregate, and exponentially create more of what you want or better in your life than that community. And thank goodness we have people like Dan that help build those communities by messaging and communicating and utilizing the best test and grow and go strategies that are out there, and not utilizing false mechanisms to build a community of vapor instead of building a community of people that do buy from you and sell for you. So Dan, I want to applaud you. I obviously see a lot with my old school perspective of new school branding and marketing, and you do an exceptional job of managing value and expectations. So congratulations, and look forward to doing more with you as well.
And speaking of amazing humans, welcome Dom. Dan, if you have 10 minutes, love for you to hang out. If not, do your thing. But Dom, welcome.
First of all,
Thank you.
you're going to have to lead, because unless you have a D in your name, you got to go.
Fair enough. Dom, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I'm great. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. A lot of testosterone here. We're glad to have you. Where
Not
are you down?
not from me. I'm 56. I got more estrogen now. So
Dom, are you in New
I'm
York, New
working.
Jersey?
I'm in New Jersey. Yeah, I'm right near Princeton.
Could have done this in person.
Yeah, next time.
Yeah. We'll just jump right in. For our communities, do a deep dive, play catch up. Dom's awesome. She got great content and talks about so many powerful things. One of the really cool things that you talk about, kind of a broad question, but I'd love for you to unpack it a little bit, is this concept of conscious leadership. What does that mean for the novice hopping on here that doesn't even understand?
Yeah, so I'm a big advocate of conscious leadership. I really discovered it a couple of years ago, early days in my journey. And I read a book called The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. Easy read. I was just referencing it with a client right before this call. But essentially, as a conscious leader, you are responsible for your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being and health, and you take ownership of that, and then you support others in doing the same. So for me, that was kind of the first step and commitment. I wrote a book about it last year called Now Here, A Journey from Toxic Boss to Conscious Connector, because when I started my company and grew my team in 2019, I hadn't ever led anybody. I didn't go to management school. Nobody told me how to do it. I was solo. And then I started hiring people and scaling my team. And as it turns out, I was toxic. I was a perfectionist. I was a control freak. I had just these crazy high standards for myself. And that manifested into my company culture, and it wasn't great. And so it wasn't until I started working with a coach. Angie was my first coach. And then after that, worked with a lot of different masterminds and did inner work, healing, plant medicine, a lot of different things that contributed to this journey that I'm on. One of which being the 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. And after I read that, I started bringing those principles into my team. It took about 18 months to get my team on board and turned around. But during that time, I'm going through my dark night of the soul. My company is thriving because my consciousness is expanding. And so it began to be a reflection of where I was at on the journey.
I just want to add this real quick, and then Dave, open up to you. I love what you said there. I love all of it. Specifically, the dark night of the soul, very relatable to me. The conscious leadership, you're talking about building a team, an organization, a business, but I imagine this also applies to just leading maybe kids or family.
Mm-hmm.
That look
100%.
up.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to, when I work with coaching clients inside of companies or one-on-one, we talk about leading yourself first. I always just, I joke that when you work with me, I'm going to send you a swag box, and the first thing you're going to open and see is a mirror, because that's who we're working with. We're working with you looking in the mirror first to learn to lead yourself, and then learn to lead others, and then contribute to the elevation of consciousness in the collective of humanity. But it all starts and ends with you. And it's interesting because when I was working with my team, I had interns and juniors and early career folks that had never been invited into leadership or looked at themselves as a leader. And so I created that invitation of, I don't care if you're me in the company, or if you're an intern, or you report to me, or whatever. The invitation is for you to be a leader if that's what you want. And so you have to enroll yourself in that journey and say, okay, and then opt in. And if you don't want, that's also cool. But then we would make space for you to leave the company, because I was really hoping to create and cultivate a culture of everyone wanting to be leaders in their lives, first and foremost. And it does trickle to your kids. My son's on his way right now to go learn transcendental meditation with my husband, and he's 10. So it's very much something that is in the fabric of our family as well.
Dave, does Dom have nuggets or what?
Golden nuggets. It's amazing. Well, I had my quantum shift working with Blaine Bartlett, who's one of TLC's greatest conscious leaders, and wrote a book with him called Compassionate Capitalism, where the cornerstone of the book was about the idea of the conscious continuum. And one of the things that I've been reflecting on and communicating lately with our community is to be a leader, you need to be annoying. And as a young leader, I was forced into young leadership because I was successful in the sales organization. And when we exited for 3.4 billion, I was still in my early 20s, and I had 7,000 sales reps to manage. And I was extremely annoying as a leader in my 20s because I was like you, perfectionist. I remember one of my bosses saying, Dave, you know, what are you doing? People literally, you are, it's so annoying. People are quitting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm just treating people like I treat myself. He said, you can't do that. You can't do that. You're way too hard on yourself. You can't treat people at a young age. And so the paradigm shift, no pun intended, like Craig named the show this, was that you still have to be annoying to be a great leader. But under the guise of conscious capitalism and conscious leadership, the annoyance is in two respects. One is you have to be honest with yourself without being hard on yourself. And this takes a lot of practice. You know, I meditate last 17 years, 20 minutes a day, specifically as a quantum healer in theta meditation to elevate the frequency. And yet still I haven't mastered being annoying to myself because I vote the ego every time I'm honest with myself to protect myself. And I'm really hard on myself, and I start judging myself like Dan and I were talking about earlier, and it screws up everything. So the number one annoying thing that we need to practice as conscious leaders is you have to be honest with yourself without being hard on yourself. And then two, one, which is counterintuitive to human nature, is that we have to be repetitive. And so we think we know everything, and this applies to, I see Dan shaking his head because he knows in marketing, this is the number one rule. You have to be so annoying. And you know as well, Dom, as a parent, why are we so annoying to our kids? Because we keep on having the say the same effing thing. My kids are 24, 22, and 19 and 14, and I've said the same thing a million times, I feel like. But we have to be annoying to ourselves too, because every time we repeat ourselves, a layer of conscious epidermis comes to enlightenment or awareness. We get down to a deeper level of tissue of awareness, and human construct in nature says, I don't need to be repetitive. I saw Dave Meltzer's video once. I know exactly what he's saying, and I remember 100% of what he said because I love it. Bullshit. You don't remember anything. You barely understood what I said. It just resonated with you. And so I want to make sure people are on the journey that Dom and Dan and the Eagle are, that we have to be annoying to ourselves without being hard on ourselves, by being honest with ourselves and extremely annoying to ourselves and others. Continue to be repetitive, because that's the only way the conscious learns.
Yeah. Oh, I love all of that. All of that is so powerful. I think about it, the beginning of my journey, I had this harsh inner critic that sounded like a dude yelling at me every day on my shoulder. That was like, no, blah, blah, constantly. Now I say that in this evolution, I have this beautiful little best friend that is me, that is softer, and there's a lot more self-love and compassion. It's still equally annoying and there and incessant, but it doesn't sound critical and harsh and as challenging as it was for me before, because I've worked on self-love and because I have worked on reconnecting with my higher self.
I love it. I know we're getting towards the end. One final nugget I'll land the plane with. I was really excited to ask Dom this one. I know it's gonna get Dave off. It's one of his favorite topics in the world, and that is being kind to yourself, Dom. Why is that so important? And what is something tangible that somebody could extract listening today to start to apply immediately?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. And I've had such a journey with this. It's so important because the relationship that you have with yourself is the foundation for the relationship that you have with everybody else in your life. So before, when all of my relationships were cracked and crumbling around me, it was because I was so disconnected from myself. It was almost like I didn't even know who I was anymore from working in corporate and working with a lot of male dominated industries for 20 years. And so it wasn't until I really focused on reconnecting with my soul essence and my heart and my purpose that then everything started to shift. But from a very practical, tangible thing that I do, I start every morning with my morning devotional practice. Before, it used to be called my morning routine, and it sounded boring, and it was boring. And now it really is this devotional practice and time that I use for myself, that I've worked out with my partner, and we just go, look, this is my time. I get 15 minutes or an hour or whatever I need, but I do me first, and then I'm able to pour into all those around me. And it makes such a big difference. So I start my day with prayer, then I go into gratitude and writing and journaling, maybe a little bit of reading. I play my sound bowls. I don't meditate every day, and that's it. I exercise, and that's my practice. It's something different for everybody. So you can take any and all of those things. You can do one thing. I like to tell any newbies and clients I'm working with, you don't have to boil the ocean. Take the one thing that you want to commit to, practice it, and give yourself grace when you fall off the wagon, because establishing this new habit and this new practice every day, the first 30 days are hard. The first 60 days are hard. After 90 days, you're like, oh, this is good. And then after a couple hundred days and years, it is just who you be. It just is who you are now. So that's just what I would say.
Dave, I could see you really connecting with Dom's resonance this morning.
Yeah, well, she's on a terrific journey in divine direction and divine time and an understanding and awareness. And it's interesting because a lot of women, they go through their quantum shifts earlier in life than men do on average. And I encourage anyone, Dr. Wayne Dyer, one of my mentors, has it's a very boring YouTube video, a 2-hour movie he calls The Shift. And but the depth of understanding of the shift that has occurred in Dom is one in which will happen at different times for different people. But the non-negotiables are so important in being kind. But it's not just being kind, it's being kind to what you're becoming, or being kind to your future self is another way that I articulate it. And it derives its kindness from the meaning that we give our past. And you can see Dom's awareness to the meaning that she gives through forgiveness and an empathetic perspective of herself to learn, but also to be able to put it in a trajectory, a divine direction towards where she wants to be or better with her morning devotionals. I would encourage other people to realize that, my tomorrow starts today. So what I do is I utilize the unwinding devotionals to put my mind, body, and soul in a position of recovery and access so that I can transcend, which is where her family is this morning, to understand how to take not only the physical recovery that's necessary to plateau and grow every day, not to live your life like a tube, food in and food out, but simply to expand, grow, accelerate, to create the exponentiality that the universe provides in its infinite, abundant, unified system that we belong to. So I encourage people to pick one non-negotiable, whatever it may be. It's different for everyone's values, and start to prepare yourself by recovering and accessing the information necessary to utilize that the next day, then moving into a devotional practice in the morning that's best suited to, one, give the meaning of the past, because that's the only thing that's going to limit you in your kind future self, as well as the limitation of self-image. You will never overachieve your own self-image, and utilize humility, radical humility, in a divine devotional direction or divine time. Both man-made constructs can be alleviated when we have both wisdom by learning from other and asking for help, but also faith that there's something bigger than you that loves you, protects you, and promotes you no matter what. And I love seeing young people that are on that journey. I always say our bench is very deep when it comes to a beautiful future for everyone. And it's obviously, it's done with Craig Siegel and Dom. Thank you guys both for the leadership, the conscious leadership that you're providing. It's part of my mission to empower 1,000 people, or over 1,000 people, to empower over 1,000, to empower over 1,000. And I definitely see both of you as in that group of collective consciousness that's going to change the world. So thank you very much for your time and also the lessons that you're sharing.
Dave, you're on fire.
Thank you so much.
Huh?
Dave,
Yeah.
you're on fire today.
Yeah, that was so beautiful. I'm
It's
like, I
the
got
ferocious Buddha hat.
You have like
Or
a really,
if you're old, it looks like a constipated Buddha.
Dave, you're giving off like an aura of tranquility. It's quite beautiful.
That's what the Masters does to me, man. It gives a peace and joy that's inherent in everyone. So not quite as fired up, but I'm at ease this morning, and I can't wait to go see my wife because she was sleeping when I got home.
Dom, real quick before we hop off, what's the best way for everybody to support you? How can they get involved?
Yeah, awesome. You can find me here on Instagram at I am Dom Farnan. You can look at my website at domfarnan.com and see what I have to offer. I like to say that I build teams, companies, and cultures. So if I can help anyone in any of those ways, you know where to find me.
Dom, thank you so much. It was awesome. Can't wait to connect further. Dave, thank you
Awesome.
as always, and give Julie a hug for
Thanks
me.
Yeah,
so much. See you later.
thank you. I want to remind everyone, if you want one of my books for Craig's community, and I'm not emailed. If you email me, I'll send it, ship it, pay for shipping, and the book. I'll sign it if you want. David@dmeltzer.com. So anyone in the community, it's episode 160 over 3 years, brother. Keep up the good work.
Dave, real quick, where are you traveling to where people might be able to meet you?
I'll be keynoting SolarCon this week in Utah, and I have a mastermind in SoFi Stadium this week as well, and then San Diego. So I got 3 different things going on. I'll be at Tag Talks, which I want to get you involved in, Craig, SolarCon, and the mastermind at SoFi. So, on average, there's usually 3 cities. David@dmeltzer.com. Come and join us this week at SoFi in Utah, Salt Lake City. VIP dinners, meetups, and keynotes, as well as San Diego on Saturday, April 20th. Look forward to seeing everyone.
Stay sexy.
Love you, man. Thank you.
Have a good weekend. So much fun, guys. Episode 160 in the books. If you weren't already following Dan and Dom, highly suggest checking them out and all the awesome stuff that they're up to. Great humans. What an unbelievable week, guys. Back from the Masters. Get to do this on a Saturday. No place in the world I'd rather be. Thank you all for joining us. If you guys like free inspirational nuggets throughout the week, you could join our community on the bottom. Just text 917-634-3796. And just love you guys. Let's play big. Let's connect. Let's share without an agenda, not need recognition, do a whole lot of good, have fun. As Dave likes to say, unapologetically make a lot of money doing so. I love you guys, so there's that. You dig?